All right. Found a screwdriver. Okay. So what are we looking at here? Okay. So let me get this stuff organized. Okay, so we have, let's open this up actually first. All right, hold on. Okay. So here's what we're looking at here. Okay. We have the cables coming out of this long cable right here. That's what comes out of the motor. Okay, so you see there's the motor. Inside this, there's, I think, even cut up in here, the black and the white, I mean the brown, the white, and the greens or whatever were in there that came out of that thing. You don't need them. You could cut them off higher. I cut them off in here because I was originally running it without the speed controller. But so you only need the red and the black that are in here. All right, so this red and black wire comes directly out of the thing. I didn't have to step it down at all. That's the gauge. It comes out of the motor. And so I just cut a little hole in here. I tried to find the plugs to go in these and it just didn't work, but I'll show you how I store this so that water doesn't get in it. But red and black goes in, I mean it's labeled, but the black goes in here and the red goes in here. This goes to the motor. Then this side, this goes to the battery. So this is the battery cable, right? The female battery cable or plug that we got for the trolling motor, right? Which goes in here. But if you were going to do this to the front, I would put it up here. Otherwise, what you would do is you would put this, these wires would go however to your battery. So if you just want to, if you don't have, you know, if you just want to put the battery in the back here with the posts exposed, or get a little battery box or whatever to put in the back, which is what I would recommend, then you'll obviously have to crimp on whatever ends you want to put on the battery. But I have in here, these are step downs. So this goes to these, I think these are, I don't even know if that's 12. I think that's 12 gauge wire there. But I stepped down to, I think 12 here from 8 here. And so they sell these little aluminum blocks at Lowe's and Home Depot. And they just have screws on them. So what you do is you put one end and you screw it down and tighten it, and then you strip the other end off, put it in, screw it down and tighten it, and then that just down steps it from whatever the thick stuff is to the thinner stuff. And so if you were just going to do, you know, circle post connectors or clamps or whatever, you would just put those on here instead of this trolling motor plug. And like I said, if you're not going to run the battery up to the front, which honestly at this point I wouldn't recommend. I would have when we first started this and talked, but at this point I'm running a battery box out of the back. It does have a trolling motor plug on it, but I'll show you that later. But either way, this red and black goes, this is to the battery. So this goes to the motor, these two go to the battery. You shouldn't have to extend anything here. You know, because basically whatever you're using, if you're using 12 gauge wire here, just make it as long as you need to get to your battery from where we're going to store it. And I'll tell you how I store it again in a minute. Okay, so this is where things got a little messy back here. Okay, so this is the speed controller. Okay, this guy right here is the remote control. So this is the knob and the switch that comes with this thing. And you'll notice when you get it, these are short, right? So they come off of here, and they're, you know, I don't know, 5-6 inches, right? Whatever they are. And so I just chopped those off, and then I used, you know, whatever, I folded them over and heat shrinked them and did a bunch of stuff to basically extend them all. Just extended these from, you know, you'll see them connected, and you'll see them in here. The knob will have wires connected directly to these. It's about 4 or 5 inches, whatever it is. snip those in half, put some wire in between them to make them longer. I made mine about, I don't know, what is that, about 2.5, 3 feet. It's hard to judge what size you want. You'll have to decide. You're taller, so if you want it to work while you're standing up, you might have to make it about 4 feet long in order for that to work for you. But the problem is if you drop it, you know, you don't want this to fall in the water. And I usually run mine through here, like this, so that it's always here. And I carry this thing in the back here. I just slide this in. So I slide this in here, that way this hangs here. And it's just long enough that if it falls over, it actually doesn't end up in the water. But that's just lucky. I just got lucky with that. So if you make it longer, you probably won't drop it off as much. But if you make it too long and you do drop it, you might get fucked. So anyway, that's just a bit of advice. I don't know. But basically, you're just going to snip off the wires between the knob and the switch and the little connectors that are in there. And be careful with those. They are very delicate. So you do not want them, you know, bend them a lot. You just want to snip them in the middle and then connect them in the middle. And you can connect them with, you know, whatever. I folded them over and taped them. I soldered some of them. I did a bunch of shit. So you just want to extend those cables. And then these two right here, I think these two come off of, I don't want to open, I'll see if I can open this. So you can see barely in here. I'm not going to open it all the way because there's tape at the bottom. But you can see the wires, so like the black and the red wires that come off of the switch. And then there's the smaller gauge wires all come off of the knob. And you can see there's, you know, black and red and yellow. And so those black and reds and yellows that are all off the knob are the two with those connectors in here, the two white connectors. And then these two that come off the switch, they come through. You can see there's two reds and a black. Those come off and they go in here, through here, down to this block down there, which goes red, black, red. Okay, and if you get them switched, then you'll end up going backwards and forwards. You know, the switch will do different things, right? So mine works this way, where it goes, when I'm holding it, goes forward. When I hit the forward on it like that, it actually goes forward, and when I go back, it goes backwards. And then the knob is just for speed, right? The amount of power it sends to it. And that's determined by which red is in which side. So if you don't like the way it is, you'll have to pop them out and put them back in. I actually don't know that it makes that much of a difference. Because when I set this thing down, a lot of times it goes upside down like this. And then I get confused. So I have to get it in my hand and orient it and figure out where it's at to determine sometimes. So if you gotta mess with it anyway, you might as well, I don't know. You decide. If you want to fix it, you can fix it. This thing's just set in here. I did not glue this down. This is just set in because there's so many wires in here that it actually doesn't go anywhere. I will say that with this box, if you run at high speed the whole time, if you try to run max power for long periods of time, this will heat up a lot. This will get a lot of heat in here, and there's no way for it to breathe. So I generally, if I am running hard for a long period of time, like say I want to make a long run at Saguaro from the ramp all the way to the river around the bend, you know, double around. So I go all the way to the end, make the left, go all the way to the end. If I want to go that far at full speed, I've noticed that it heats up and it will shut down and overheat. So what you want to do is I just pop the top off, put it in the back and let it breathe, and it seems fine. However, I have lost the screws doing that and replaced them a couple of times, so I would be careful doing that. But that's how it's put together. Okay, so again, as you can see, put my thing back together. I just use the plastic wrap everywhere, and then I tape the edges. There is very little water actually gets on this thing for the most part. Like, it's pretty well protected. And like I said, I carry the actual box in the back here of my chair, so I just set it back there. I don't have any way of like holding it in place, but then I feed this through here, and that kind of keeps the whole thing together. Obviously you don't want the cables to be this way, but usually I just get it all set up here like this. Sorry. So like that, right? So this thing then, when I'm sitting there, this will sit on my lap or in my pocket. If I stand up, it will reach if it's in my lower pocket sometimes, but it'll usually pull the seat forward. So I don't know. It's not the best. This is not the best setup. I'm trying to think of better ways to do it, but it works fine, and it definitely goes for a long time. So you can see how this is up off the deck. So pretty much all the water that gets up in here, it doesn't get into the box. The box, actually, I'll sit the box sideways like this a lot of times. But it stayed in. I put my, I could strap it in, I suppose, but I just lay it in there and it doesn't give me any problems. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I know it's a lot, but it's actually pretty simple. It just is time consuming, you know. So the first thing you got to do is you got to drill your holes for your steering. You got to set your steering up. Well, actually, I should take it back. So the first thing you got to do is you got to put this on, put it here, get it to the depth you want, get your steering on it, and get all that set to go. You know, you can trim this off first or second, but I trim this early, and you know, you can use a hacksaw, but just be careful of the wire inside. Check YouTube. There's a million videos on how to cut that down. That's not that hard. And if you really want to be safe, like I said, there's a pipe cutter that's like $5 at Home Depot you can get, and you just tighten it, spin it around, tighten it, spin it around, tighten it, spin it around, and eventually it cuts through and it just slides right off. So it's pretty easy. But so you want to get this all on first, so that once you get this on, get it set to what the depth is that you think the depth should be, then lock everything in place, then drill your holes, feed your tube. Again, I did front to back because it was easier to reach in this way to get them out through these holes. Oh, I did miss a step, which is once you feed the tube through, what you're going to do is on the one end, you're going to melt it. So like if I feed it in from this side, what I did is I took this and I just held a flame to it until it melted, and it curls back in. So like you can see there's like a little nub, and this is, you can get this information too if you look at any installation video for the steering thing for the Bonafides. But you just basically hold a thing up to it and it'll melt back. And then you're going to cut this end out. You're going to pull it through until it's nice and taut, but not, you don't want to yank it through, you just want to get nice and taut. Then you cut it, pull it out just a little bit, like put a little tension on it, cut it about 1/4 inch, and then hold it with like pliers or something, hold the flame to it and melt it, and then let it go back in. These are not great for me, but they've stayed. So, you know, I put a little bit of marine gunk behind it, that kind of stuff, but anyway, I forgot that thing. But so you're going to put this on, and you're going to drill your holes, run your tube, then you're going to do your steering thing, right? So you're going to do your steering, turn it to the full, what you want the thing to be, crimp the front one, then turn it the other way, do the other side, and then that's your steering. And then for your power, I suggest you put this box together, and then you just determine where you're going to store your battery back here. I would suggest just go right behind here, and then just run a little, you know, put some little terminals on the end or clips or whatever you want, and just put them right on there, and that generally would be fine. You might want to get, you probably want an inline fuse, for that. I don't know if I told you about the fuse or not. Like, it's so hard to remember all the little pieces. But you can get a fuse, inline fuse from, a million places. I have some, but you can get them at Home Depot and whatever pretty easily. Just a straight inline fuse. You just put that on the positive side. And I think that's it.